Hello, everyone. Hopefully, whoops. Sorry, it's been a bit. There we go. Hi, everyone. I am the Zambo Llama. Welcome to the WinUI community call on January 22nd, 2005. Hopefully, everyone can hear me okay. And I've got confirmation from our helpers. So appreciate everyone being here today and joining us. We're really excited. We've got a lot of great content to show you today. So let me dig in here. I'll just do our brief introduction here about what this call is all about. And we're going to dive into updates for 1.7, including the upcoming Windows Copilot runtime APIs. So we're really excited to show you what's going on there. We have some updates on tooling improvements, and then I'm going to wrap up with a quick little XAML debugging tip for folks that I found very helpful recently in a project that I was working on. And then we'll end with some Q&A. And we, I think, have about half an hour-ish of content here. We have lots of quick fire demos here to show you. And so we should have a little bit more time for Q&A than last time. We apologize for that again, but we appreciate everyone's feedback. We know it's important to be able to talk to you all here. That's what this call is all about, to communicate with the community. So really excited to have all this content here for you today. So our calls are quarterly. This is what we're here about. Let me put myself up in the corner there. We're still figuring out the schedule for the next call. There's a few things going on. And so we're trying to figure out when things get released for 1.7 and the other events going on in March when the next community call is. We've heard that, we want to try and do them a little bit quicker than quarterly. So we're trying to make adjustments for that. But we just have to figure out all the planning and get that on the schedule. So stay tuned to the GitHub. We always post on the GitHub discussions for the WinUI repo there at Microsoft-UI.xaml. When we have the community call, we try to post that at least a week ahead of time to get your questions. So be sure to just stay focused there, or follow us on X as well to get the latest news. And as we said, post in the YouTube chat with any questions you might have about what we're talking about. And we have everyone here that's obviously talking about those things to answer those questions about what you're hearing about. So we look forward to having some time there at the end. If you're new here, not sure what this is all about and what WinUI is, it's the native UI platform for Windows 10 and Windows 11. It's built for our modern hardware and devices, offers the latest fluent styling for your applications. You can build it with .NET or C++. And it's powers the Windows shell, many apps on Windows, as well as other platforms like .NET MAUI and React Native for Windows. And it's part of the Windows App SDK. Windows App SDK is a set of APIs for Windows developers that can be used in a variety of apps as well, like WPF and React Native for Windows, etc. But and .NET MAUI for when you're targeting Windows. But WinUI 3 is a UI framework that's built on top of that. And WinUI 3 is the latest generation of that that kind of builds upon all the previous incarnations that we've had in the past. We also wanted to let folks know we have new product icons. So we just started rolling these out in the last few weeks. And so if you see these icons, these are what they represent. So we have the new one for WinUI that's what we're talking about today. We have one now for the Windows App SDK, as well as the Windows Copilot runtime, the WinUI gallery, and the new AI Dev gallery. So if you haven't seen that, that's really cool. Check it out on GitHub and find out how you can use local AI models on your own device in your applications. Cool. So I think that's the main updates that I have. So we're going to try and hand off to Akanksha here. Hi, Akanksha. Welcome. How are you today?
Yep. Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Well, thanks for joining us. And you looking coming in clear. So I think we're all set there. And I'll let you cover the overview of the updates here.
Yep, sure. Yeah. So hi everyone. We are excited to present the latest updates in WinUp SDK 1.7. So, over the past few months, we have been working hard to address some of the top asks and burning issues raised by our community. So, today we'll be introducing some exciting new experimental APIs that will help make your WinUp SDK apps even more powerful and developer friendly. So, a few APIs are listed here. And yeah, so I will start with the O2 manager. Uh,
Sorry, Kankta, we switched to the having
Yeah.
Rahul present the Windows runtime APIs. I know you're having issues before, so that might have got missed. But we'll hand back to you for the OAuth manager in a second, Akanksha, and we're going to hear
Yep.
from Rahul and Pratik first. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. If you all want to add AI into your apps, starting next week, you can get API access to machine learning models that we build and fine-tune for Windows hardware through the Windows App SDK. These models will run locally on your user's device, and it protects data privacy because the user's data stays completely on their device. It is free to use. Like every call that you make to these APIs is, you don't have to pay for it because it's on the user's device. And your app also stays lean because otherwise, if you wanted to use a machine learning model that you had to bring with your app, you'd have to bundle it, and it increases it bloats your app up. In this case, because these ship through Windows, you can just reference them. You can just call an API and get access to them. So these run on Copilot plus PCs on the NPU of the device. So could we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So these are coming next week, and there's 5 that we're going to show off. There's PhiSilica, a language model, optical character recognition, which grabs text from an image. There's image super res that takes an image and just makes it sharper. There's segmentation that you can choose a part of the image and just remove the foreground or background. And then there's image description. So given an image, you can get like a description of it or like alt text for accessibility. So I'll hand it over to Pratik, who's going to demo a sample app that he's created. And this sample app will also be published on the WinApp SDK samples repo next week as we launch our APIs. Over to you, Pratik.
Hey, thanks, Rahul, for the introduction. Hello, all. Yeah, as Rahul mentioned, we are launching these new cool set of APIs, and we have a sample app which lets you actually explore and learn how to use these APIs. I mean, we'll also have our docs page up also. So very quickly going through, it's actually from a very familiar territory. It's a C# WinUI app. My laptop is this side, so I'll be looking a lot on the side, so don't mind me. So very quickly looking at it, it has a bunch of different API offerings, examples we have on the side, and they have their own sub options. So like you have language model, image scaler, description, extractor, recognizer. Let's start with image object extractor. So the way it works is it provides a bit of description, and then you create what is known as a session. Like this session is actually part of how these get instantiated within your operating system, and they remain till the time until you restart it. So it becomes convenient. First call is always costly. Then they are like practically very fast. So as you can see, the session is created. Now I can show that, hey, this actually model does is it extracts objects. So what can I do? Let's try extracting something. Let's try the horses. So I'm picking stuff here, and I'm pressing extract. Ta-da! Horse is extracted. I mean, you can use it to make your own very cool image editing program. Let's try something else. Language model, very familiar to the people who know that how you talk to the AI assistants. So it's something similar. Yeah, don't worry about the progress bar. It's work in progress, but it's something similar. I can type "Who are you?" and it will get me a response. As Rahul mentioned, the good thing is none of this is going over the internet. It's all locally in your machine. It's the APIs are talking to the NPUs in your machine, and the NPU, which is running this small language model, is returning the response back. We have something similar. So it gave its response back, AMPHI, developed by Microsoft. We have something more. This is you can generate response and it's cancelable because everything is async. So if I generate response, cancel. So you have full control, and we are developing even more controls. We have text intelligence skills, which can help you rewrite stuff. So if you provide some kind of an essay, you can rewrite it, summarize it. Oops, not showing in the demo, but yeah. So yeah, we have still a couple of minutes left. Why don't we try showing more examples before folks kick us out? So let's try image description. So I'll again create a session. I have my input image. It's still loading. Okay. Please describe this image. This is our newest API. So hope demo gods comply with us. Yeah, it did. It did. So yeah, 2 horses running on a grassy field with a mountain backdrop. However, let's pick up a custom image. Wait, do I have an image? It's my face. Okay, let's use my face. I've never tried this, so I don't know what it will say. The image shows a smiling man wearing glasses standing close to a woman. Oh, actually it identified. Yes, I'm holding my baby next to my wife. Nice. And the last one I'll show is text recognizer, simple OCR. Again, you create a session and you recognize text. By the way, one last thing I wanted to tell is all of these have their source code mentioned. So if you're just taking notes and you're like, hey, I just want to see how it works, the crux of the APIs. So you have all of this, and these are very copy paste and modifiable kind of codes, even with the image description and every place. And apart from that, this entire C# WinUI app will be part of WinAppSDK samples app. So feel free to go there, and you have everything under the hood to get you started with the APIs. Well, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Prateek. This is great. We're going to switch back over to our slides here, and welcome back, Kanksha. Welcome. He's going to tell us about the OAuth manager.
Yep. Thanks. And yeah, sorry for the confusion before. Now, okay, so I'll start with OAuth manager. And we know that implementing authorization in desktop apps has always been a pain point, especially when it comes to managing secure login flows. This new API simplifies that process by enabling seamless OAuth authorization for your apps. It allows you to easily integrate authorization with popular identity providers, so you can offer a smooth sign-in experience for your users. Let's see the demo. So
the demo shows that by writing just a few lines of code in an application, we can initiate OAuth 2 and perform authorization. In this demo, we have a test app registered to GitHub. We are going to perform OAuth 2 authorization to get the access token by using authorization code grant type. Once authorization is done, we get an access token back which can be used to access users' resources. You can see it displayed here. Thank you.
Yeah, see that our OAuth 2 manager API is out there in experimental 1, Windows App SDK 1.7 already. So please go ahead and try it. Now I'll move to another API that we have introduced. Yeah, that is the background task builder API. Now, we do have a background task builder API currently, but that is designed for UWP applications. And many of the background task triggers are not supported for full trust COM components. So this particular API takes care of avoiding the cumbersome workaround so that the WinApp SDK applications can directly register the full trust COM components with the background tasks. Here is a quick demonstration of its working.
Hello everyone, here I am doing demo of a WinApp SDK application trying to register a background task for the time zone change trigger. Entry point of the background task is set as a full trust COM component, which is current not supported for most of the background task triggers, including time zone change trigger. Before showing the execution with the new WinAppSDK API, I will show the behavior with the existing background task builder APIs. In the application, I am clicking the button that triggers the calls to register background tasks with the existing APIs, and you can see that the registration fails and application crashes, as the registration is not supported. Next, I will go back to the application code and update the background task registration logic with the API from WinAppSDK namespace. For using the WinAppSDK Background Task Builder API, I have included the WinAppSDK experimental NuGet as well in my project. Now, when I try to register the background task, you can see that the background task gets registered successfully. Now, to show that the background task gets executed when time zone in the system changes, I will go to the Settings app and change the time zone. Then you can see that the background task is getting executed, and it is showing the toast notification. Thank you.
So as you can see, we have a working sample here for a WinUp SDK application with using background task builder API. We hope you do try the APIs, and so now I will hand it over to
Hello, everyone.
Saharsh for camera capture UI and match support in rich edit text box.
Yep. Thank you so much, Akanksha. Let's deep dive into the APIs I'll be covering today. So first up is Camera Capture UI, something many of you have been eagerly waiting for. We heard your feedback loud and clear. Integrating camera functionality in desktop apps has been cumbersome. Developers had to rely on complex workarounds, and we needed a better solution. Well, we are thrilled to announce that in WinApp SDK 1.7, we have uplifted the Camera Capture UI API, making it available for WinApp SDK. This API lets you easily capture photos and videos from your apps with just a few lines of code, providing a simple interface for integrating camera functionality. Let's take a look at how it works in action. We have a quick demo of the API.
Hi everyone. In this demo, I'll be showing you the new Camera Capture UI API, which will be part of the latest WinApp SDK Experimental 1 release. This has been a burning issue in the community. Many developers have voiced their frustrations about the lack of a native, straightforward way to integrate camera functionality into WinUI 3 apps. Here you can see that I have included the experimental Nugget version that includes the new Camera Capture implementation. But before showing the execution with the WinApp SDK class, I will show the behavior with current WinRT APIs. As you can see, when I clicked on the button which invokes the capture file async API, it throws an exception which indicates that a method was called at an unexpected time. This has led the developers resorting to complex and tedious workarounds using interop interfaces, which was time-consuming and not optimal. Now let's move to the new Camera Capture UI in WinApp SDK. This version solves the problem by introducing a minor adjustment in the Camera Capture constructor. By using the window ID, which works with iInitialize with window, this allows the camera functionality to be properly initialized and used in a desktop environment. As you can see when I click on the button to invoke Capture File Async API with photo mode, Camera app pops up allowing me to capture a photo and save it in the file system. This change drastically reduces development time and complexity. Not only does it make it easier for developers to integrate camera functionality, but it also improves developer satisfaction and adoption of WinApp SDK. We're excited to see this feature being adopted by the community and used in future applications. Thank you for watching.
As you can see, integrating camera functionality is now incredibly simple, and you get a fully native experience for capturing photos and videos in your apps. Moving on to the next exciting update, math mode support for rich edit text box. This is another feature which was a gap we identified that was blocking the migration of certain apps from UWP to WinApp SDK, which wanted to render complex Unicode mathematical equations. With WinApp SDK 1.7 experimental, we have introduced math mode support in rich edit text box, which restores functionality we previously had in UWP, making it much easier to render complex math equations directly in your apps. Here's a quick demo of the math mode APIs.
Today, we're showcasing the enablement of math mode APIs in the rich edit box of WinApp SDK, restoring functionality we previously had in UWP. This allows seamless rendering of rich mathematical equations directly within the text box. On the right, we have a standard rich edit box without math mode enabled. Notice how basic mathematical equations like e equals mc squared or square root 16 equals 4 appear as plain text. Now let's copy each equation and paste them into the rich edit box with math mode enabled on the left. Watch how the equations, such as square root 16 equals 4, infinity plus 1 equals infinity, and others, are rendered as properly formatted mathematical expressions. With the uplifted math mode APIs in WinAppSDK 1.7 Experimental 2, this gap has been closed, allowing developers to easily incorporate rich mathematical rendering. Thank you.
As you can see, rendering mathematical equations in your apps has now become straightforward. And these new APIs will make it easier for you to build better, more powerful apps. And we are really excited to see what you will create with them. And with that, I'll hand it over to Xenia. Over to
Today,
you.
we're showcasing the enablement.
Sorry, that's my bad. PowerPoint keeps wanting to replay the video. Let me get up Xenia here on the stage. There we go. Thanks, Harsh.
Xenia's here.
Thank you. So, hey everyone, I'll be discussing about the various WinUI tooling improvements that we've worked on in Visual Studio. And all of these tooling improvements will be enhancing the developer experience. And regarding this, our main focus will be on three main areas. The first one being the improved WinUI discoverability, where we will demonstrate the enhancements we've made to improve the setup experience for WinUI developers in Visual Studio by streamlining the installation of the necessary dependencies for installing WinUI. Next, we'll move on to the enhanced XAML IntelliSense and compiler experience, wherein we have enhanced the developer experience by ensuring that only the valid values of certain properties and property values are accepted by Visual Studio. And lastly, we will talk about the enhancements onto MSIX packaging, where we will demonstrate the added support for the creation of MSIX bundles and the MSIX upload for WinUI applications. Next, moving on to the next slide, we will start with the, can we move on to the next slide? Yes. So first, we will start with the improved WinUI discoverability. So after going through various forums, we came to know that WinUI discoverability was a key pain point for many WinUI developers, especially the ones who are new to WinUI. And this was because the entire process of setting up the development environment for WinUI involves the process of manually identifying and installing a lot of dependencies, particularly the workloads and the components. So we've enhanced the discoverability of WinUI's dependencies, and to streamline the experience, we have simplified the acquisition process of the various dependencies. I will now start with the demo and will start sharing my screen. Do let me know if my screen is visible.
Yep, you're good to go.
Is it visible?
Yep.
Yeah. So if currently for a developer to start with the WinUI application setup, the developer must first install the Windows application development workload from Visual Studio Installer. And this workload installs a lot of pre-selected components and also some optional components. So let's assume a developer who is new to WinUI selects this workload and carries on to download this workload with the pre-selected components. Once the workload is downloaded, the developer moves to Visual Studio and goes to the new project dialog and tries to create a WinUI C++ project. The developer selects the project type to WinUI and selects the language to C++. But this is what the developer encounters. No exact match is found. Confused, the developer then moves on to click on Install More Tools and Features and gets redirected to Visual Studio, where the developer now, this is getting loaded. So let's wait for this to get loaded. And yes, as you can see, the developer gets redirected to Visual Studio again. And now it's on to the developer to look up through various online resources, documentation, and identify the necessary dependency for C++ WinUI application. That is this optional component, C++ WinUI app development tools. And once the developer clicks on this and modifies, this particular component gets installed in Visual Studio, and the developer can finally create a C++ WinUI application. And as you can see, this entire process can be very time consuming and frustrating for developers. So to streamline this experience, what we have done is we have now renamed the Windows application development workload to something more specific and suitable. While I wait for this to load up. Yes. So we have renamed it to WinUI application development so that it is easier for developers to identify the workload. Moreover, once this workload is installed into the system, and now the developer tries to go to Visual Studio and selects the project type to WinUI and the language to C++, the developer can now see this template, install WinUI tools for C++ development. Now, clicking on this template, we can see that Visual Studio installer gets launched. But this time, while it is getting loaded, let's just wait for it to get loaded. Yes, so this time you can see that the optional component, that is the C++ WinUI app development tool, was pre-selected. All the developer now needs to do is to click on install, and this optional component will be installed, and the developer will finally be able to create C++ WinUI application. So as you can see, these enhancements will greatly reduce the development time required for a developer to set up their development environment and create a WinUI application And this feature is going live into Visual Studio 17.13 Preview 3 today, and it will be GA in February 2025. So it would be great if you could try it out. And next, we will move on to the next demonstration, that is the enhancements onto XAML IntelliSense and the XAML compiler. So we recently came across this issue where Visual Studio, the XAML IntelliSense and the compiler, it was suggesting invalid values for certain properties, and on using these invalid values, developer would face some issues at a later point of time, such as the runtime exception. To demonstrate this, I will now show. So this is a sample WinUI C# application, and this is the XAML page. Now, if you see this text box element, and to talk about more about the invalid values, so text box is an element, and for the text wrapping property, wrap whole words is a property value, and this wrap whole words property value is an invalid value when used with the text wrapping property for text box as well as rich edit box. But now, if I type text wrapping, you can see that wrap whole words is a suggestion popped up by the XAML IntelliSense. Now, if I click on it, you can see that there is no error or warning. But if I save it and I try to run the application, the build might take some time, so we have to wait for the build to get completed. But we will be able to see that the build gets succeeded. And while the application is trying to execute, there will be a XAML parsing exception. Let's just wait for the build to get completed. Yes, it's going on. Yes, so the build is succeeded. Now we've moved on to the runtime scenario. And yes, you can see that this exception gets thrown. And if you see properly, the error message is also not very clear. So if a developer who is trying to use this text wrapping property value, wrap whole words, and tries to run, this error will come up. And because of the error message, the developer will have to spend a lot of time trying to debug the origin of this error. And this might be a very frustrating process. So to address this scenario, we have made some enhancements onto the XAML IntelliSense and the XAML compiler to ensure that this invalid value, that is the wrap hole words for text box, does not get suggested nor get accepted by Visual Studio. So now to demonstrate, if for the text box element, if I now type text wrapping, you can see that wrap whole words is no more suggested by XAML IntelliSense. Moreover, if I do try to type wrap whole words, you can see that in the code editing window itself, I'm getting a warning which says that invalid value for property text wrapping. And now if I try to build my solution, let's wait for the build to get completed. We will see that the build failed because we got the error message that wrap whole words cannot be assigned to text wrapping as it is an invalid property. So the same will be there for rich edit box as well. And because of the enhancements we've made to XAML IntelliSense and the XAML compiler, we've ensured that while a developer is writing the code, the developer does not encounter this experience, and the developer is prevented from encountering this exception during runtime. And this entire experience will improve the developer experience and prevent the developer from encountering this exception. So this feature went live in Visual Studio 17.13 Preview 1. And this will also go GA in February 2025. So please do try it out. That is it for my demo. And now I will be handing it over to Snigdha, who will talk more about the enhancements in MSIX packaging.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yep, Snigdha, you're all good to go. Thank you.
Am I audible? Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's start with the demo. Thanks, Zinia. The next demo is about MSIX packaging improvements. So currently, developer face challenges in creation of MSIX bundle for WinUI application in Visual Studio. MSIX bundle supports various architectures such as x64, x86, and automated installation of the correct version of the package into your machine. But right now, developer need to face they need to manually create the MSIX bundle for all these architecture, which might lead to some configuration error, leading to inconsistent installation of the version in your machine. Despite the option is there in Visual Studio to like create MSIX bundle for the application, but at the end the MSIX bundle is not created. So let's see a live demo like where I'll be showing the current situation and the solution which will be in upcoming release for the uh, feature. So let me present my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yeah, I can see it here, Snigdha. Just let me know when you've got everything queued up. I can still see our streaming stuff. There we go. All right, you're all set.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yep, you're all good to go.
Okay, so this is our WinUI application, and to just package this application into MSIX bundle, we will select the option package and publish, then create our packages. For demo purpose, I'll be demonstrating side loading as an option. We do have option for Microsoft Store as well, but for demo purpose, I'll be using side loading. Thereafter, you will be prompted to select a certificate to sign your package. Once you have selected your certificate, to generate an MSIX bundle, you have to select always or auto for like if you have multiple architectures selected or for creation of MSIX bundle. Once when we input all the fields such as output location, you can proceed and create MSIX bundle. So this is a build that will go on. Ideally, the task would be like creation of multiple MSIX first, which will be like for x64 or x86 based on the user selection, and thereafter signing of the package. Ideally, at the end, these all should get bundled into one MSIX bundle. Let's see what is the current scenario for WinUI applications. As we can see, the option bundle says no. That means MSIX bundle is not created, which is one of the developers' pain. So we are enhancing this experience. So this is one more WinUI application which will show how our changes are going to help developers. So before that, I would like to highlight this Nugget package, Microsoft Windows SDK Build Tools MSIX. This is a package which helps help packaging and WinUI applications. In future releases, in upcoming releases in Feb 2025, we will be we'll be supporting MSIX bundle through this Nugget only, and this you can find through nugget.org. So we have this another WinUI application where we will follow the same procedure for creation of MSIX bundle. We will select side loading, the similar option which you used for the previous application. Choose always for multiple MSIX bundling for multiple architectures, and same procedure will get followed, but the task for creation of MSIX bundle will be added over in the Nugget package. So in few seconds, we will see the result. As part of the tasks which are running through, a similar thing like multiple MSIX for the architecture selected, signing of the packages, and later after bundling of all those packages into one. Just it will take some seconds, then we'll be able to see the result. Here you can see my MSIX bundle is getting created, and it will get signed since we are using the certificate. And you can see the result. The MSIX bundle is being created. Let's check out the location where which was chosen by the user. So here it is. It's the MSIX bundle. Let's check what does it contain. So these are the two architecture which were given by us for like bundling into one single MSIX bundle. So this enhancement will improve the WinUI adoption among our customers, like easier deployment and distribution of the packages across in Microsoft Store as well. As we have seen another option for a Microsoft Store that is also getting supported with this enhancement. So that's all for my demo. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Nigda. That was great. Appreciate you showing us all the improvements today. And let me just queue us up on the next slide here. And that's my section. So we will, this is our last bit here. I have a quick debugging tip, and then we will jump into Q&A. We've already seen a lot of questions bubbling up here, so we're excited to get to that. But yeah, I just figured I had a issue that I was facing with trying to debug something in a project I was working on a few weeks ago before the holidays, and figured it would make an interesting little tip to share with you all. So let me switch over here to my desktop. And so I just went to the data binding page on the Windows docs. This is a really useful page if you're doing XAML development work. I saw someone asking about getting started with XAML again. We'll talk more about that during the Q&A. But I'm always referring back to this page, and there's a bunch of samples here. They're still for UWP, but that's the great thing about this tip that I'm going to share today. It will work with WPF developers using XAML. It should work with Maui. Like if you're doing anything with XAML, including WinUI, of course, because that's what we're talking about today, this tip should be helpful in your debugging world. So I just downloaded this Bookstore 1 sample, which is just basically showing some basic stuff about binding to a list. And so I loaded that up here into Visual Studio, and I just swapped they had a list box. This is a really old sample, but I just switched it to a list view here. And so if we run this, we'll see this application here. just shows a list, simple list of different books. And that's all this app does, right? It's pretty simple. But you have this kind of situation come up a lot of times where you have a list of data, right? These have a data template, or you have a custom control that's driving some piece of UI, and you really want to get your data context, right? Like if you're looking at the visual tree and trying to dig into, let me grab. If I try and grab an element here, it can be hard at times if I look at the properties to know like what the data source is for this. Like, what is the object that's driving this binding? How do I get to that kind of data? Or maybe I want to like perform some operation within the context of my page that data is in. And so it's kind of hard to get that context of where am I at with this thing and what is this thing within my application. And so to help with that, we can do a few different things, but it's really just about hooking into an event that's on your object. So in this case of a list view, I can just add like an item click event, and I have to make sure is item click enabled is true. Right. And so now if I just add a breakpoint on this item click event, and rerun this, then now if I click on one of these events and I have this event, so now not only do I have my list view, right, and I'm in the context of my page if I'm trying to get access to any data or functions I have there, but I also have the clicked item, right, which is in the data context here of now I have my actual backing data that's driving this item in this template, right? And I can use the same approach with like a user control or any sort of other types of data. Like if I'm not exactly sure where it is, like in the specific case I had, I used a pointer entered event. So I was waiting for the pointer to enter the grid of like my user control or something, and getting the context of where I was with a breakpoint there. And then that let me inspect the data and do my kind of operations that I needed to debug the particular problem I was having. So it's just like a quick little tip in working with XAML that you might not think of immediately, but leveraging the events within the system to get the actual context you need to dig into your data or to call other operations in the context of your page and code behind that you might need while you're working on an application. So I hope you find this useful. I found this really useful in the case that I had. This is a simplified example here just to kind of show you how it works, but it's really useful in a lot of different places, and it's not something I immediately jumped to in the scenario that I had in trying to debug a custom control that was embedded in a template somewhere, and figuring out what the data was being passed between things and how that was working. So I hope that is useful for you. And we will jump back here, and we have our Q&A. We have a bunch of questions queued up. I'm a little bit behind on any recent questions, so I'll get caught up as we go. But we had some preceded ones from GitHub. So as I mentioned on the call here, if you, as we get ready for the call a week or so ahead of time, we post on GitHub about the upcoming call. We precede some questions there and try and see if we can answer any of those ahead of time. And we'll follow up after the call as well. So if we don't get any questions today or didn't quite get to any of the ones answered ahead of time, because we do have a lot of questions that were asked live today. So we're going to get to those here in a minute as well. Then make sure to follow up on GitHub. That's where we're looking and want to try and make sure we're getting your questions addressed as when we can. So the first question here that was kind of basically asking about hosting frameworks and other frameworks, right? And so this is referred to XAML Islands. It's something that's getting some focus and is kind of continuing to be worked on. But for this specific scenario, as far as we're aware, I think there's some more work to be done. So just stay tuned. And I know that they're continuing to add examples for XAML Islands in the Windows App SDK sample repo. Maybe one of our chat helpers can grab the link to that GitHub repo and if they can't paste it in the chat, at least give it to me in our chat so I can post it on the YouTube link, because I know that was mentioned also for the Windows Copilot runtime APIs are going to be posted there as well. So it'd be good to get that link to folks. And then the other question that was preceded from GitHub was, will you ever consider allowing community pull requests for WinUI 3? We hear this a lot. It's something we know that's on that we're hearing. We've heard folks and that we want to consider in the future, but we don't have any updates at this time. And then, oops, let me just go back to our Q&A slide, and I'll pull some other folks up here from our call today so we can answer your questions. So let me grab a few folks because I'm not sure who's answering which ones. These are welcome folks. Let me see if we have a good view here. Nope, this one. There we go. That's better. All right. So our first question comes from Ginny here. Are there plans to expand the Windows Copilot runtime for non-Copilot plus PCs at some point? Rahul, I think this is a question for you.
Yeah, our current plan is to focus on the Copilot plus PC ecosystem. The models that are part of the Windows Copilot runtime are fine-tuned for the NPU, and it helps with like reducing the battery consumption and reducing latency, and it's very performant for that ecosystem. But that said, if there's other hardware that you'd like it to run on, like I know that folks want it to run on beefy GPUs as well, just create a GitHub issue on the WinAppSDK repo, and as we get upvotes, we love to learn from your feedback and update our plans accordingly.
Great, thanks. And then our next question was also from Ginny about what cameras are supported with the new camera capture API.
Yep. So the camera capture UI API is launching the camera app underneath. So I believe if the model works with the built-in camera app, it would essentially work with the camera capture UI API. But yeah, feel free to leave a comment if there are any follow-up questions.
Great. And I know one of them was actually that can it work with C# as well?
Yep,
it
it works with C# as well. Yep.
Great. Oops. There we go. And then Jay was asking if there's any recommendations for relearning XAML after a decade away from it. Been learning WinUI 3 and WindowsAppSDK recently, but finding resources very spotty. So I know in the chat, the WinUI gallery and like the Windows Community Toolkit gallery were called out. The gallery apps are great ways to kind of see what controls are available and play with them and see samples. Actually, let me see if I can pull this up here. And boop. So you can download the WinUI gallery from the store, and you can see it has a whole bunch of different controls here and examples. So if you go into one, it'll show you the source code for that in XAML and how to kind of, what different possibilities there are here to get started with that. So that's a great resource. And then if I go back to my browser here, if you go to YouTube and search for Windows Developer, the Windows Developer YouTube channel is where we're putting all these community calls, all this great content. We've got a WinUI videos, talks, community calls section here. And so we've put all of our recent talks from .NET Conf, Ignite, the ones from Build last year, Niels and Rajesh gave a great one on making your apps look pretty and design. So I recommend that one highly as well. So these are various, geared to different various audiences, but there's definitely ones like the What's New is more geared to as an entry point for getting started. So there's a lot of great content here, just like seeing what what stuff we've been working on in the recent times on the community calls to, how to get started, or like choosing between WinUI and WPF. What's the technology and what does our landscape look like there? So we're trying to bubble up videos here, and it's something that we're also working with the docs team to improve the docs. And a lot of the docs, I think Morten had called out, were focused on UWP, like that. Those are great resources still for and very applicable in most cases for WinUI development. But it is something we're working to try and get those getting started resources updated. And we've done a lot of work in this last year, as we've seen with the getting started improvements that we showed earlier in the call with the Visual Studio workload, to those getting started resources and the docs. And it's something that we're continuing to move and make improvements on. So hopefully that helps. And then our next question is about Authentication API. And is there any recommendations for applications without using internet? I think we had someone who was going to take this question on. I've since we've gone live.
Maybe I will answer this. So, the OAuth API that was presented in this demo, in this video, was for that require a connection to the remote server and to authenticate a user. And since that requires internet, so this API, particularly the one that we presented today, does require internet, and it does not work without internet. And if you have any specific requirement that you want to go through and want WindowsAppSDK to deliver, we may want to hear more on this, and you may put a feature request over the GitHub page. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And then I need to, let's see. If I haven't caught up on which questions, what's the next question? Maybe this is one that we can answer here about plans to make WinUI 3 integration existing for Win32 apps easier. I think this might be referring to XAML Islands. I know that's our main kind of strategy there. So I don't know if anyone wanted to talk, if anyone wants to talk a little bit about that might have some more insights into the XAML Island story. Like I know we talked about it a little bit before with the other question. But otherwise, if this is not what you were referring to or had other questions about that story, then I'd probably recommend watching the latest Ignite talk that was on the YouTube channel I showed there too, from Jeffrey. That was the one basically sharing about how Office is modernizing their applications using the Windows App SDK. That was a really great talk that went into a lot of the details about Win32 and how to modernize Win32 apps. So that might be relevant here as well. Does anyone else have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it well.
All right, thanks. I see another question here that we've got. So let me pull this up. What happened to the convenience APIs for XAML windows, such as min, max, width, and height?
I think the app window APIs are being worked upon. So the release is not yet fixed, but they are being worked upon. So the helper functions. So,
yeah, I know it's something that's been a priority and something that we've been working on. I think they just haven't quite been ready for the previews and stuff yet. So I think we're trying to figure out where there's a landing for the next release. So yeah, stay tuned. And then I'm not sure who's going to answer this one, but what happened to smooth resizing? I'm guessing this is referring to when you're changing the window and the rendering piece of that. I think that's been talked about at some point in the past, but I don't know if there's any updates there. Looks like we don't have any updates here. And let me see if we have any. I know there's lots of questions. Part of this is us being able to moderate these live is being a little tricky at the moment. So let's see. Let me see if I can pull anything else here. I know I see Morton's question about XBind and AOT. I know it's something that we're aware of in the Windows Community Toolkit, and we've managed to. I think that was another question from GitHub. Let me pull this up here because I can talk to this a little bit. We've been working in the Windows Community Toolkit to transfer and make everything AOT compatible. The majority of our controls we've been able to get to be AOT compatible. We've had some issues with some of our samples that are trying to use those controls, but the controls themselves we've been able to get to work in AOT in a lot of cases. But yeah, there's definitely some things to be aware of and patterns that are harder than others. So it's definitely something we want to be cognizant of, and that we're trying to raise from our learnings from going through this process in the Windows Community Toolkit. So I think it's something that's definitely a follow-up that needs to come from the, it's not just about making things run in AOT, but there's stuff to be done there for XAML as well. So that's a great question. So I know there's a lot of chat. I was able to kind of keep on top of chat while we were running on the presentation here and the demos. We're still trying to figure out the best way to handle live chat as we go. But we're also coming up on the hour here, so I'll see if we have another question we can pull up that we can answer. But then, as always, be sure to follow up on GitHub. We'll try to we look at all the questions that were asked, and we'll try to post responses in the next week or two up on the GitHub discussions there. So that's the place to kind of be looking out and either bubbling up existing issues or filing new issues for scenarios that you think we have called out that might be missing here. Otherwise, we also have the survey there. So filling out the survey, I'll put that link up here. Actually, let me do that now while we're wrapping up and looking for a final question. Be sure to fill out our survey here at aka.ms/winui/survey. Because that's really important to kind of let us know how we're doing on the calls, where we can make improvements, what you want to find out about, and so we can know what to show you for the next call here. And I know actually there was a question. I'm not sure if I can bubble it up here, just talking about when 1.7 should be released. I don't think we have an exact date right now, so it'll just be in the spring, kind of following our normal release cadence. So as we have more updates, we will let you know. And appreciate the support here. The barrage of questions, like it was a trickle at the beginning and then it's just the fire hose. So I appreciate everyone bearing with us here as we try to do our best here to pull things up. We appreciate everyone's enthusiasm. We know that there's a lot of different things going on, but we do the best we can to bubble up and highlight and work on the things that we know that a lot of people are struggling with. And so we showed a lot of great improvements there today. So hope you appreciated all the demos, and thanks everyone here for joining the call and sharing all this great new stuff coming. And be on the lookout for the WCR APIs that should be dropping next week. And I think with that, we'll wrap things up for today, and just follow up with us on GitHub to if there's anything else, and we'll try and get to those there. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.